Hello, everyone. This is Michael DePrima, and my guests joining me today are um, Walter, Walter and Albany. They're both from YouTube. Albany's channel is that lovely bitch, and Walter, what's your channel again? I'm sorry,
I
forget.
co-host the Cult of Sage podcast with Ethan.
Would you suggest people subscribe to the channel?
Only if you're a particular taste. We don't like to hold back, and we really like to offend and love and tease.
So it's kind of more like a Joe Rogan type thing.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen his stuff. It's more suited to me and Ethan and taste. And if you're not gonna get butt hurt.
Okay, Int sounds interesting. Um, Now the topic of this video is addressing an important question. It seems in recent days and also the past 14 years as well that the atheist community, even though it's a smaller number, you have atheists who are genuinely respectful and trustworthy people, and then you have atheists who are like very hateful, demonizing towards people of all religions and all faiths just because they believe or have different ideals than them. And it's kind of like the firebrand atheist type ideal that seems to be rubbing people the wrong way about atheism. That seems to like give them like the only perspective of what atheism is. Would you guys agree?
Well, I think I understand why people are against like what we would call the firebrand atheists, people that we could probably call the assholes of atheism. I mean, we have militant atheists, we have just the regular new atheists, we have more calm atheists, and then we have firebrand, and firebrand is definitely the most out there. And I'd say most atheists wouldn't fall under firebrand, but I mean, they can definitely rub people the wrong way because normally when you have a firebrand atheist, you aren't going to get them to listen. They pretty much they despise religion at its core. Anyone that is religious is a moron, they're an idiot, and they're probably not going to listen. But I actually do think there is a place for firebrand because just as we have extreme fundamentalists that, you know, if you differ from them in any way, they will tell you you're going to burn forever, and I mean, they'll just attack you. I think people that are firebrand are good for those kind of fundamentalists, so it really just depends on where you are in a debate and who you're speaking to.
Hmm. Walter, what's your thought of it?
On like the different like brands of atheism.
More specifically, firebrand atheism. Do you think firebrand atheism is like a form of atheism that like only religious people and some non-religious people see as the only form of atheism? That's why some people have a bad view of atheism in general.
Half and half in every degree. I agree with Albany on the fact that there's a place for everyone and everything like that. But being militant about anything or obsessive about anything can be too much in a society that we're accomplished to create. And it's just like, I don't know, extreme opinions and, overwhelming things tend to clutter things in a thinking standpoint when you just want to sit calmly from your 9 to 5 and bring food to your kids pleasantly, and you don't want to get robbed on the streets, but you don't want to get persecuted for what you're thinking either. You just want to fucking make ends meet. So it's sort of like a hot and cold thing, Yeah, there's a place for them, and I'm not sure where that place would probably be on the front lines if it ever went toe-to-toe. I mean, there's been known wars starting over nothing. I mean, you can start a war over a disagreement. So it'd be nice to have some people that know how to fire a gun at your side, but it's just very black and white to me.
Interesting. Okay. Now, for people watching, now you're going to see three videos, like the panel, Albany, Walter, and I are going to see three specific videos. One, I think, does address an important thing that some atheists do, which I think, even from me being an atheist myself, I think it's just like very wrong the way way some atheists treat women. Um, this is a video by Jacqueline Glenn.
Hey guys, so last week I was in Vegas for the Unbelievers tour, which was amazing. I hope you guys get a chance to go see the film. But Angela was speaking, and one of the things he said was that he prefers in front of Christian audiences because they're a lot nicer to him than atheist audiences are. And that's actually something that I want to talk about a little bit because I've been noticing it a lot recently. I've done a lot of hate mail videos before, hate mail from Christians, hate mail from Muslims, hate mail from even believers, because how dare I insult Justin Bieber. And I just want to say that I've gotten more hate from atheists than any other group. Now, the second and fourth comments are pretty much typical internet perversion, and I'm not really surprised by it, although the last comment kind of... Now, the first comment here gets really annoying. I mean, I see it all the time. The only reason anyone would ever support you is because you're sleeping with them, right? Oh, TJ shared your video. What paid to earn that? Oh, Dusty sponsored these awesome t-shirts that I'm going to go and buy right now because they look so great. You must be flipping. I mean, what else are you good for? Now, when it comes to the third comment, or at least the first part of it, I find that to be the most offensive. You only get views because you're a girl that I personally find attractive. Nothing else could possibly earn you any success. Now, if you wanted to watch a video on YouTube for sexual reasons only, why in the hell would anyone stop at my channel? I mean, there are girls on YouTube who are looking for that kind of attention. They're swinging around on a pole, or they have boobs big enough to make any normal person fall over, or they're giving tips on how to get a really great blowjob. Why would you stop at my channel if you could go to any of those other channels and do whatever it is that you do while you watch those videos? Now, to be fair, even if initial attraction is what brought somebody to my channel, why in the hell, after hearing what I talk about, would they stick around? I mean, they certainly wouldn't subscribe. Now, whenever I posted all these comments on my Facebook page, a lot of people said not to feed the trolls, don't respond to them, but I think it's important to point this kind of thing out at least once. And normally I would listen. Normally I would see stuff like this and I honestly wouldn't care. But these comments are things that I pulled off of Richard Dawkins' Facebook page. These are comments from people who I assume would be somewhat intelligent. And in my opinion, that just makes this type of thing exponentially worse. People wonder, why aren't there more women on YouTube who speak their mind? Why aren't there more atheists that are outspoken in the community? Well, it's not that hard to figure out. This kind of stuff is said to me all of the time, and it's almost always from people within the atheist community. That's why I felt like it was important to point this out. I don't want to feed the trolls, but it does bother me. Does it bother me enough to change what I'm doing? And
Are you guys still there?
I am.
Well, looks like we got some technical difficulties.
Can you hear us, other one?
Hmm.
Apparently not.
No. He fell off the face of the planet into the black hole that we call the abyss.
Well, we can always talk about what's been said in the video so far.
Could you lead, please?
Yeah. So was he directing it towards Jacqueline and what she was saying, or the way atheists have spoken to her?
Well, I think she was more going along the lines, it was more a response to the video. He's more going along the lines to the effect that
it gives people a, overrated sense of security whenever they're saying things like this. Everybody knows that. It's trolls. It's fine. But, I don't want you to feel like this is the overwhelming thing that I get. I get a lot of support. And with that, I want to thank Dusty from Cult of Dusty for making a video yesterday for supporting me about the same thing. He didn't have to do that, but he went out of his way to say, hey, you guys look, this is not cool. You can't do shit like that. So I want to say thank you to him for doing that video. I'll have a link here if you want to watch it. And also, he sponsors me by making these awesome t-shirts, and it helps me out a lot when you buy them. So go to www.dragonblend.com if you want to get one and be super awesome like us. And of course, since Dusty sponsored me, I'm going to have to go now and have sex with him because that's the only way that I can ever accomplish anything on the internet, right? So yeah, make sure to like this video, share it everywhere. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. So anyways, I'm going to stop rambling now. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
Okay, now you obviously seen Jacqueline got, comments like that, which I do honestly think were unnecessary. And what are your guys' views on what she said?
Was she saying it was I'm on my phone because I have to run around, so it was hard for me to hear some of it. Was she saying a lot of the ones that she was sharing were from atheists?
Yes.
So I think people tend to forget that atheist and atheism is not synonymous with anything except an unbelief in a god. That's it. And atheists aren't smarter, they're not nicer, they're not better than anyone else. And you're still going to get comments like that. You're still going to have humans being humans. You're going to have, from some of those comments, you're still going to have perverts who are trying to find, attractive chicks online and people that are bigger than them, and they're going to go after those people. And, I think it's fine that she made the video, though, because I have no doubt. I've seen those videos when I've watched them. I've seen those comments under videos of hers, because she's good friends with TJ and Dusty, and they support her and they all support each other. So there must be something sexual. She couldn't possibly be where she is because of her own talent, and it's just the human experience, though, is what it comes down to. People like that will never stop, and the chance of someone that's that immature, in a sense, to post something like, I want to cock slap you, or, oh, I just wish you were naked. Like, people like that, they're so bored, chances are, with their life, it's not going to matter. Like, it's not going to matter what people like me say, what people like you say. I mean, they're just that minority that's going to be crude and borderline fucking retarded no matter what.
I see a lot of your viewpoints, Albany. I do agree that just because someone says they're an atheist or believer or whatever, that they're not necessarily smart. Their IQ doesn't bump, and that's what the Atheist Voice, Hedman, I think, is his name. He says on himself in the video that's the very last one, but he says on himself. Walter, what's your take?
Actually, my take is strongly around the same lines of Albany's. It's all about the human wiring and envy. They can't stand seeing the sight of a strong, independent woman making success without a man at her side, or her doing it on her own. And a lot of people see that as a fucking threat.
She needs feminism.
But question though is the way some atheists present themselves like that. Do you think that's like kind of like a hypocritical way of going about atheism, though? Because atheists, ideally, if you think about it, are supposed to be more tolerable of people of all religions and all faiths and criticize the bad ideas, but not generalize the followers. But
may I?
Oh, go ahead.
But ideally, atheists are supposed to be more tolerable, but is it kind of hypocritical for the atheists to, like, say really horrible things back at other atheists?
But where in the definition of being an atheist does it say you have to be more tolerable? It's one of those things that people conflate with atheism, and it's just not so. I mean, we like to think we're more open-minded. We like to think we're more skeptical, we're more tolerable, but that's not how it is, and it never will be, because, again, atheism is just a lack of a belief, and it's interesting, and this is nothing against you, James, it's just atheists as a whole, it seems, tend to forget that. Like, half the graphics I see online that atheists share, atheism is just this, it's just this personal relationship with reality, and it's all these, we're smarter, you become more intelligent. It's like, no, you fucking don't. You're still the same person you were when you were a believer. Some of your other belief systems may have changed politically or socially, but at the end of the day, you're still you, and your atheism can be a ground point to changing your ideas but you're still you. If you were a pervert when you were a Christian, the chance of you being a fucking pervert when you're an atheist is pretty high. And I think it is good to talk about wanting to be more rational, but I think that should just be a human discussion without atheists or without Christians or Muslims. It should be something we all strive for.
Okay, Walter, what's your take?
Can you repeat the whole thing and what opinion you want from me?
Okay. Do you think it's kind of hypocritical? Because ideally, if you look at what atheism is supposed to be, like atheists are supposed to be more tolerable and more accepting, but do you think it's kind of hypocritical for atheists to like say just as horrible things, even worse things, to other atheists?
Actually, no. I don't think it's hypocritical in the stance because I strongly believe that most people don't believe half the shit that they say. You know, 95% of the people walking around are just walking with their eyeballs and their fucking voice up their asshole. And they just copy what they see, like a copy and paste thing. But there are the 4% and 3% that genuinely have compassion on what they believe. But then again, you got the copycatters. I've seen fucking men fall head over heels for a girl being atheist, go straight over and found Jesus just for fucking pussy. So it's all a matter of like what's in their life and everything like that and what they're thinking at the time. You know, I mean, like to call like this person an atheist a hypocrite. I mean, is there like a tenet? Is there like a list that defines who is atheist? Like Albany said, it's like a lack of a belief. You don't have a belief in something like that. You know, it's just like you're just straight up science, show me fact and everything like that. I want to move towards. I want to travel to see the stars and terraform a fucking planet. You know, if you're sitting there and you're a Star Trek fan and you're genuinely like a fucking atheist, and you're genuinely a fucking atheist, you're not gonna call yourself an atheist. You're just fucking him. You know, that's how I believe it anyway. You know.
Okay, for those of you who may just be joining, myself and Albany and Walter are discussing the question, what can atheists do to be more trustworthy and respectful? And this is a important question, in my opinion, to address anyway. Now, this next video we'll see genuinely is different from Jacqueline's point of view, why atheists are distrusting society as a whole, and we'll see how you guys feel about what this kid has to say.
Hey, Reese here. I'm an angry atheist and I'm proud of that. Religions give us a lot of reasons to be angry, and one reason is that they cause people to have an irrational distrust of atheists. Now, there have been a lot of polls done on this, and they've pretty much found in every instance that atheists are the most distrusted or most hated group in America. According to a poll by Gallup, while 95% of people would vote for a woman, and 80% would vote for a Mormon, and even 68% would vote for a gay candidate, only 54% would vote for an atheist. That's ridiculous. Someone who they agree with on every political view, only 54% of them would vote for him if that person was an atheist. A poll done by the University of Minnesota found that 40% of Americans say that atheists don't fit with their view of America, and 47% would disapprove of their child marrying an atheist. But far and away, worst of all, was a poll conducted by the University of British Columbia and the University of Oregon, which found that atheists are more distrusted than Christians and Muslims and rapists. Can you understand how ridiculous this is? Religion causes people to be so self-righteous that they actually think that someone who doesn't believe in God is a worse person than a rapist? Well, tell you what, if you're one of those 40 to 50% of Americans that just seem to have a problem with all atheists, I have a message for you. I'm an atheist. I'm a good person. I'm a moral person. I don't hurt people. I don't kill people. I don't rape people. I'm raising a family to be good. I work. I pay taxes. I contribute to society. I'm a good person. And you know what else? If you're one of those 40 to 50% of Americans, you're probably a Christian. Now, if that's the case, you're the antithesis of the message of the New Testament. You are the exact opposite of what your own Savior represented. Get off your high horse. Think for yourself. You're being bigoted. You're being hypocritical. It's time to grow up. It's time to start acting like an adult.
Okay, so obviously he brings up a good talking point, is that some people do vote strictly based on their religion, but I do think that he made a generalization that if you're the part of that 54% or 40%, that you must be a Christian. I think that generalization, and I think that those are some of the reasons why people have such a negative view on atheists. Because
but he didn't say you must be. He said, and if you are.
Correct. My mistake. But the thing is, though, but the way he made his talking points, he had some generally good talking points, but do you think he was strawmanning in some places?
Not that I heard, personally. He was very direct in what statistics said, and he made sure that instead of saying all or generalizing, he said, and if you're watching this and you're part of the other 50% and you are a Christian, you know, and then he didn't even go off past that towards the Christians. He talked about himself. He said, I am this, I am a good person, you know, and I actually really like that video, personally.
Walter, what's your take?
Well, my take is his the way he took like the demographics and everything like that. He said, you know, this percentage of people would vote for a woman, these percentage would vote for a gay, these percentage would vote for an atheist, and that whole thing. And I'm just saying, like, okay, well, what if that woman's an atheist, and what if that gay's an atheist? It seems like he's categorizing things, but then again, it's like, okay, what separates a woman from being an atheist? That's the only thing that throws me off. Other words than that, his talking points are sound to me.
Well, and I've seen the statistics where he's probably taking them from, and I would put more blame on the statistics themselves and where we get them from, because it doesn't seem like when people answer those, they don't think about anything else other than, oh, it's a woman. Yes, I would vote for a woman. And they kind of blindside themselves to thinking, well, what if she's a woman and an atheist? What if she's a woman and a Christian? So I think that's more on the stats where he was getting them from.
Yeah.
And how they were asked to the people voting rather than himself.
But this kind of ties into the whole subject that we're talking about. Does someone's belief or non-belief really determine what elected job they could do, or what job they could do in general, or what good they could do to help their fellow men and women? I mean, does it really matter? Because some people think that you need a faith to be a good person, and some people also think that if you're an atheist, you're a better person, which both statements are completely false. But the thing is, though, do you think someone's faith or non-faith actually matters of them determining them they're a good person or not?
Well, yes and no.
Okay, why do you think that?
Well, I genuinely believe that we should have no more religious zealots in political office or any government form of control at this point in society, because they just seem too crazy. They're sending us back as a civilization. And so I genuinely believe that we should have only atheist electorals, only atheist, like, you know, people that are making laws of ration and reason, not based on a fucking psychosis. So, I mean, I guess I'm going to go on the other side of that fence there. I'm going to be like, I wish that there was only atheists that were elected office and positions, because it just seems rational reason if you're going to have somebody near the fucking missiles that they don't have a fucking thing in their head and they're hearing voices like Jesus told me to shoot Iran or fucking something like that.
Okay, Albany, you have a rebuttal, or you have a completely different opinion, contrast to Walter's?
So, I'll make this really quick. I think someone's religion can determine who they are, and it is solely their choice. You know, they will let their chosen religion basically consume them. I mean, well, we can take the recent everything with Kim Davis. You know, chances are that if most people have never been indoctrinated into religion, have never heard homosexuality is bad, and this is a complete assumption, but I bet most people that are strictly religious right now wouldn't bat an eye at homosexuality. It could be a norm. But their religion, they let their religion consume them and create all their own rules through their dogma. But when it comes to being leaders of the country, I actually don't know if I don't give a shit if someone thinks they hear God in their head. I don't give a shit if someone doesn't believe in God at all. I don't care if someone believes in a fucking unicorn as their God. I genuinely don't give a shit. What I care about is their plan, what they want to do, and are they going to be using that dogma for their personal life to control the masses? And that's where I would have a problem with. But I also disagree on a lot of social issues and a lot of economic issues than most atheists. So for me, it's unless you have someone like fucking Huckabee who literally wants to run the country off of the Bible, I don't care if they go to church every Sunday and do their shit. Like, that's their personal thing, but they're not going to force it on everyone else. Great. And, you know, same with atheists. For me, it's when I would look at an atheist politician, I want to know what I don't really have to worry about the dogma, but I still would want to know, you know, do I agree with you politically, economically, socially? And if that's a no, then I don't give a shit if they're an atheist. I won't vote for them.
I agree with Albany on the fact that, personally, in my opinion as well, I don't care if someone has belief or not, if they're running for any type of political office, because, quite honestly, you know, like both of what you two said earlier is the fact that just because someone has no belief or belief doesn't change who they are as a person. And I also think the fact that, you know what, even if they don't go to church, or even if they're just spiritual and they still like follow their religion without specifically following the dogmatic version of it, quite honestly though, I think if people have a stick in their ass all the time, that of someone's belief or spirituality, I think it's not the person who's spiritual. I think it's the person who's constantly critical of the person holding that belief. Will you guys disagree?
I agree and I disagree. I completely. I really think we're at a point in our society where we should really be moving towards bigger and better things and arguing who's got the biggest god in the fucking block, you know? Like, who's fucking... I'm bored of it. It's fucking boring. It's done. That's just my opinion.
No, and I think that one we can all agree on. It's so frustrating day in and day out whose god has the bigger dick. Yeah. And then you have, you know, a lot of the secular community, while trying to do the better thing and being like, look, your gods all have dicks. We don't even believe in your gods, but they all have dicks. Can you all just shut the fuck up?
Right.
But then, you know, you have a lot of atheists that, I think a lot of it comes down to atheists get so tired of the great debate that's why they're just like, fuck everything religion, like, this has just gone too far, I just want everything secular.
Interesting viewpoint on that. For those of you who may be tuning in, this is better than CNN right now. We're not confusing anything. But anyway, we're addressing the question of what can atheists do to be more trustworthy and respectful. Important question, in my opinion, anyway, to answer, or to try to find what people think of that. Now, the third and final video we have is from Hedmed Meta. If I got his name right, I apologize if I got it wrong. Now, this video is entitled 6 Things to Never Say to Christians, but I think that if you can adapt it to whatever religious belief you think is being more discriminated or more criticized than anything, I think you can adapt this video to pretty much anything any religion in general. I'm just curious what your guys' take on his video here is.
We made a video not too long ago about things Christians should not say to atheists, But it's about time we flip that around too, because there are a lot of things atheists say, and I see it on YouTube, I see it on blogs, and I'll admit I've done it myself a bunch of times. There are things that we say as atheists that we really shouldn't be saying to Christians either. So let's run through some of those, and hopefully, we can be aware of what the problem is by saying these things, and we can, fix our own habits along the way. Don't make up simplistic reasons for why they believe. You know how sometimes Christians say to us, oh, you're an atheist because you really want to sin, or you're an atheist because something horrible happened to you in your childhood, and you get mad because it's like, no, I put a lot of thought into this idea of God, and I decided that God doesn't exist, and it was a long process, and it wasn't easy, and you should respect that. Well, a lot of times we kind of do the same thing with religious people, where we say, oh, you believe just because your parents believed, or you believe just because it's really hard to be an atheist, and you're just taking the easy way out. We say to them, you're a Christian because you're brainwashed, or maybe you're religious because you fear death. And that's almost as insulting. That is as insulting as the things they sometimes say back to us. And the truth is, that does apply to some people. But certainly most Christians will tell you, no, they believe in God because they put a lot of thought into it, and this is the side they landed on. And by the way, I don't think that means they're right. I think it means we need to really understand what their reasons are for why they believe in God, and then go after those. Let's criticize their faulty arguments, but let's not make the mistake of assuming they believe in God for some really simplistic reason, because we know we'd feel horrible if they did the same thing to us. Don't dismiss religion so casually. We often say, religion is bad. Or Christopher Hitchens' book, said how religion poisons everything. It's like, well, when we think about God and we think about religion, we sometimes think about how the church is anti-choice and anti-sex and anti-gay rights, And for a lot of Christians, though, when they think about church, they're not thinking about those things. They're thinking about their community, and they're thinking about the charity work they do at their church, and they're thinking about all the positive memories they have at the church. So when we just dismiss religion so casually, so easily, because of all the horrible things that religion has done, we got to realize that for a lot of Christians, that's not what comes to mind. They may be aware of the perception of religion. They may be aware that their church is part of the reason people feel that way. But that's not why they attend those churches. Not a lot of even evangelicals are going to church saying, yeah, I really want to stick it to gay people today. No, they're going there because they really feel a sense of belonging and meaning. And if we just want to convince them to listen to us and why we have a better argument, it's not going to happen if we just say your church is bad. Because there are a lot of things their church probably does that are really good. And we need to acknowledge that whenever that's possible. That's why when I work with Foundation Beyond Belief, one of the things we do is we say we should give to one religious charity every quarter because there are religious groups that do amazing things, and let's acknowledge that. Don't assume there's one correct form of Christianity. And I've made this mistake myself many times, but let's be honest here. Fred Phelps and Fred Rogers were both Christians. One of them was a raving anti-gay crazy guy. And then you have Fred Rogers, who's this nice guy you just want to hug because he's amazing and wonderful. And both of them are Christians. And who are we to say one of them's the right kind of Christian, one of them's the wrong kind of Christian? The truth is, when you say Christian, you got to be more specific because it really doesn't describe anything. You got to explain what you mean by that. I mean, there are evangelical Christians who accept evolution, who support same-sex rights, who believe that women should have the right to choose what happens with their bodies, and they believe that the Bible it tells a lot of stories. We shouldn't be taking it literally. It's not like Ken Ham has it right, and who accepts evolution has it completely wrong. That's us saying, oh, you're only a true Christian if you believe in a literal interpretation of the Bible. It's basically the no true Scotsman idea, like, oh, if you're not this type of Christian, you're the wrong kind of Christian. Look, this is a debate they're having in their circles all the time about what is a good Christian or a bad Christian, what's a true Christian or an untrue Christian. Even they haven't figured it out. So for us to just say, oh, you're not a real Christian because you did this and I liked it, that's very dismissive and it's not fair. So let's try to be very specific. When we say we are talking about Christians or we have a problem with Christians, let's try to be specific about who we're talking about. Whether it's, evangelical pastors, whether it's, literalist Christians, fundamentalists who believe in a certain way. It doesn't help to just paint a broad brush over all of Christianity and say this group is right and that group is wrong, because there is no right or wrong when it comes to it. That's kind of the wrong dichotomy to put there. There are some people who are, jiving with reality and some that are far away from it. That's our beef. But for them, they don't necessarily say that one group is right, one group is wrong. So let's not fall into that trap. Don't say religious people are stupid. There are some stupid religious people, but you know what? There are also a lot of really stupid atheists. That's the way it works. And there are a lot of really smart Christians out there. And I know most of you know that, and I know you are with me on that. We often say that a lot when we see, older people especially, who have been educated and still believe in God. And we're like, oh, that person still believes in fairy tales? You're supposed to grow out of that a long time ago. That person's an idiot. But the truth is, almost all of us were probably religious at some point. And I know when I was religious and I became an atheist, it wasn't that I became smarter all of a sudden. It's that I just started looking at the world in a different way. And that perception was the big change for me. It's not like I magically raised my IQ or something. So let's not just say religious people are stupid. Let's go back to what I said before, and let's criticize their arguments and their logic and their reasoning, because we can, and it's really easy to do that. But let's not just dismiss them offhand as idiots. I mean, if someone calls you an idiot, and I know some of you are doing that in the comments right now, the easiest thing for me to do is just say, nope, you're wrong, and just ignore you. But we don't want religious people to ignore us. We want them to listen to us. We want them to come to our side. And it doesn't happen when the first thing out of our mouth is that person is a moron. Don't say religion is a virus or a mental illness. And there are two reasons for this. First of all, it's totally unfair to people who actually struggle with mental illness. So let's not trash them in order to make our point. But the second thing is, think about what that says about religion. If we say, oh, you're religious because you got the virus, or you have some sort of mental illness or something, you're saying that religion is something that happens to you. And that's not fair, because that's not true. The truth is, religion is something people choose for themselves, or at least that is the case, at least when they're older. And if we want to be able to convince someone to leave their faith and to become more rational, at least toward our side, that's not going to happen if we just think this is an affliction that they have. You have to understand that religion is a choice they made, and it's a choice they can get out of. So by calling it a virus or something, you're basically admitting they don't get a choice in the matter. Viruses and mental illnesses don't have an on-off switch like that. Don't say, let's tax the church. It's a rallying cry you hear online a lot, like, tax the churches. But that's not really what we want. And let me explain why. There's two big things here. First of all nonprofit groups, from your local church to like the Ronald McDonald House, they are all nonprofit groups. They're all tax exempt. Most of those groups have to tell the IRS every year, this is how much money we took in, this is how many employees we have, this is how much money they made, this is where our money went. Churches don't have to report all of that information. And that means you have churches that spend all sorts of crazy money as salaries for their pastors. Some of these megachurch pastors make ridiculous amounts of money. Sometimes they take in tithes to the tune of millions of dollars a year, but you don't actually know where all that money is going. So first of all, what we want is for churches to follow the same rules other nonprofits follow. And keep in mind that if you say tax the church, what you're really saying is you want to tax every nonprofit group out there. And I don't want that. I don't want nonprofit groups to suffer an additional financial burden because they're doing good work. We should want them to be tax exempt. So it's not that churches should be tax exempt. It's that they should have to tell us what they're doing with the money they take in return for that benefit. Unfortunately, saying something like churches should follow the same rules that all nonprofits follow doesn't quite fit on a bumper sticker the way tax the churches does. So maybe that's why it hasn't caught on. But be careful of your language there, because it's about getting them to play on an even by a great post written by Ed Brayton, and you can see that linked below. And if you think there's anything else that atheists say to Christians that we really need to stop saying, please leave that in the comments below, and we should at least try to control what we do and make sure we're on the right page. My name is Hemant Mehta, and I write at friendlyatheist.com. Please leave your comments below, and we will be sure to check them out.
Okay, now the points he made in that video are very distinct and very, important to talk about of anybody of any religion, really. I mean, what do you think of his video, though?
I love all those points. I love Hemant Mehta's videos, and there are some things I disagree with him on, but I've always liked his videos on how to talk to other people, other groups, because he actually does give a rational approach to it, which I appreciate.
Okay, Walter, what's your take on his video that we just watched?
I still want to just say fuck this guy, but I mean, yeah, he's gonna do a lot of good, and he's got the very fluid face, and I'm pretty sure a lot of what he's saying has good elements and good facts, but his fucking bleeding heart is like a pool of blood underneath my fucking toe. It's just so fucking bad, and it's just like that shows weakness to me when you're trying to move forward in certain stems. I mean, you're trying to, I don't know. I can't say that my opinion on him is going to be completely rational. I just think he's just pandering, it seems to.
Well, remember how when we very first started this, we were talking about firebrands?
Yep.
If we have firebrands, if we have militants, and we have, normal atheists, we also need people like him that aren't afraid to be that calm middle. And God, when he was on Beyond Gods and we were talking with him, I asked him about his name, and he actually says, he kind of wishes he didn't go by the name The Friendly Atheist because he feels like he has to have this, more friendly persona. And
he's got heavy intensity in his face. I can see he's got very, very heavy intensity, and that's really cool, in my opinion.
Yeah, like it almost seems like he wants to say more, but I think his opinions are valid. I mean, even if you don't agree with everything, like when he said, when you talk to Christians, you can't generalize. I think a lot of atheists do forget that. We have over 30,000 branches of Christianity. Most of them, if not all of them, have at least one thing, if not dozens upon dozens of things that are not similar. They view hell differently. They view marriage differently. They'll even view homosexuality and abortion differently. It's
right.
It's like that I really appreciate from him, because there are those good little reminders, regardless of how you feel of him as a whole.
I agree, 100%. He's more of a diplomat, more so though, in that sense, bridging the gap of friendship from the harness and violence that whatnot.
But I also think that he as a person, it is important to the atheist movement. There should be more people like him, honestly, in my opinion, because he is kind of the person that says, you know what, you can have a conversation with a religious person, you can, question their ideology, you could even critique it to them a little, but there's a way you can do it, and a way that doesn't sound like that, and a way that doesn't come off like you're a dick. Pretty much. I mean, that's how he's presenting it. Like, for example, it's like if I have 4 specific books here that deal on the topic of science and religion. Like, for example, God is Not Great, Christopher Hitchens, and The God Delusion. I mean, I haven't started reading this yet. I'm not sure if I will because of what Richard Dawkins. I'm not sure what I will anytime soon after what Richard Dawkins said about Ahmed Muhammad. But the thing is, though, the way these 2 books, more specifically, Hitchens writes it in such a way that even a theist can read it, and even a theist could say, yeah, I could see his viewpoints. But Dawkins, the way he just criticizes and generalizes everyone in this book is ridiculous. I mean, would you honestly think a theist is more likely to read God is Not Great or The God Delusion?
Depends. I mean, I think they'd probably go right to Dawkins, because that's what they hear more on. Hitchens is more like, if you're not so far out the secular movements, or somebody, I don't think you're going to come across Hitchens as much as you're going to come across Dawkins. So it's what's just going to hit your ear and be on loose in the tongues, I guess.
Well, Albany, what's your opinion?
Well, I mean, if I was able to talk to someone into reading something, I would go Hitchens first. But that's because I like Dawkins on some things, and then in other places I really can't stand him.
Would you care to elaborate on that?
There are just a lot of social issues that he rubs me the wrong way with just different events. Nothing I really need to get into because it can distract. But Hitchens is someone that I wish more than anything he was still alive today, because I would love to meet him. I would love to see him speak. And I like that Hitchens is one that doesn't fit the atheist echo chamber like a lot of others do. I think someone that I like referring people to is actually Penn Jillette in his work, personally.
Oh, I like him.
Oh, interesting to bring that up, because going back to the first video that we watched, Jacqueline Glenn even said that Penn Jillette himself, he had said that if he has to give a speech, he'd prefer more of a religious audience than an atheistic audience, and this brings me to the question: everything that we watched so far on, like, how atheists behave sometimes and how we behave to ourselves in our own community. In your honest opinion, guys, how do you think our side of the argument can be considered more trustworthy and more respectful? I mean, what steps should we take?
I think that's a hard one because I say atheist movement and community because, well, not really movement, but community because, it's a good broad brush of that's who I'm talking about. But even then, like I said, it goes back to it's assuming that we all kind of think along the same pattern outside of that one thing. And I think the biggest problem, honestly, is the belief systems of most atheists when they become atheists. I can't tell you how many people, when they become an atheist, they will ditch every belief they ever had. And I don't mean about religion. I mean social issues, political issues. They'll ditch everything and believe what most atheists believe without researching it, without thinking about it. And I think that is our number one problem as they further into their atheism or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And it's almost like they don't want to think for themselves. And I wish more atheists would get out of that echo chamber. They would think for themselves. They would think about, are you doing this because, when you get into debates, are you doing it because you want to change minds and open minds? Are you doing it as an ego trip to prove people wrong? Or are you doing it because you genuinely don't give a shit about people and you just want to be a dick? And sometimes I think, and this goes for a debate in almost any topic, people tend to forget the moment you start arguing, it's pretty much over. If no one's listening, what's the point? And it seems like people, atheists included, just want to keep going and pissing people off, and they think that if they piss someone off, that means they win, and I just think that's bullshit.
I agreed.
I agree with that. Now, Albany, addressing what you said about the atheist echo chamber, do you think there's a difference between an atheistic freethinker like the three of us and atheists who live in the atheist bubble that just take everything as truth without even questioning it or even criticizing their own side?
I think everyone's is in an echo chamber of some sort. I'm very careful about calling anyone a free thinker personally, because if I have a discussion with someone and then I go about my regular talking points and I just ignore everything they said, to me that's not a free thinker. If I had a discussion with someone else and they just go back to talking about and posting the same thing they were talking about before a discussion, even when I brought up points, saying, hey, this is incorrect, regardless of side, I don't consider them a free thinker. I think that's a very loose term, and
I see your point. I do. I do. I could see where you're careful with calling people free thinkers. I completely agree there.
Just think it gets into the problem with atheists thinking that we're all more rational and logical, and they automatically address the label free thinker and skeptic onto being an atheist, and that's just not fucking true. I think most people are stupid, I think most people are ignorant, and I think most people don't want to live outside of their bubble, whether they're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, atheist, or otherwise. People like their bubble, and especially when you transition into something where your community tells you you're better than everyone, I think atheists almost have a bigger problem with that echo chamber, that little bubble they live in.
Very interesting. Hey. Walter, what's your opinion to this?
So like how people, can you repeat the question again, like the whole generalization?
Yeah. How do you, considering everything that we watched, from Jacqueline's video to the Atheist Voice video to the other video addressing, you know, how atheists as a whole are distrusted by society, what do you think atheists could do to be more trustworthy and respectful?
I think one of the biggest problems that most people face is they seem so unself-aware. It's like some people says, oh well, I did this out of anger, I said this out of anger, or something like that, or they say things and then they make excuses for it and everything. It's just like, okay, like it's hard for me to explain what I mean, but it's like, okay, when a lot of people, they drink and they drink and they drink, they get drunk, and they're like, oh my god, I don't remember what I fucking did last night, I got so drunk. I'm 28 years old, I've drinking half bottles of vodka, and I've sat there on a teeter and I've made sweet love to my toilet, okay, but I've never lost consciousness. I've never been in a situation where I can't say that I don't remember what I did because I've been completely aware of what I've done. And so it's hard for me to consciously aware that people aren't able to look at that, and they just choose not to be aware, and they just choose to be how they are. And usually it's for, like, you know, maybe it's a mating thing or something like that, you know. Can't really go inside the heads, but I guess along the lines I agree with Albany in a big thing, like fucking people are stupid, ignorant little slobs that like to eat their own shit. And a good many of them just fucking should die off. I don't know if you agree with that statement, but my opinion, I think there's too many fucking people on this planet. But that's pretty much it.
Walter and I, the true humanitarians.
There's way too many fucking ignorant people for us to move forward. That's all I believe, but I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but that's fine.
Walter, I apologize, but can you repeat that again? You cut out.
I know. No, I like I said before, I just believe there's just too much ignorant people on this planet, and I mean, if we really sat there and looked at science as our forefathers, I mean, you can cure pedophilia by fucking selective breeding and all this other shit. We don't have to have these problems as a society if we just move closer towards the technology and be like, oh, he supports eugenics. I do. I really do, because I think there's a good way that we can actually evolve our race if we really look what we're putting out, because we don't need to be breeding these fucking over-sex drive rapos and letting them fucking breed. But just, you need to be more self-aware, I guess. Just, people need to be self-aware, be kind to other people, and, you know, if someone says, you know, something you don't like, you just don't fucking like it. Don't be an asshole about it, you know? Oh.
All right.
Okay. I apologize. You cut out again, but I heard what you were. By God, what you were saying. So if any atheist who's watching this, maybe later, because I know there's one viewer right now, but if there's any atheist watching this on my channel later, can you two give at least one tip to to atheists how they could be more respectful or trustworthy to someone they're in a conversation with who doesn't agree with their opinions?
For me, it would just be to let go of your ego. Understand that being an atheist does not inherently make you better. It doesn't make you smarter. It doesn't magically raise your IQ. It doesn't make you more logical or a free thinker. That I think some atheists, you know, they need to be a little more humble, and God knows, ironically, that, you know, we all can use practice in that. I can too. You're not fucking better just because you're an atheist. And I think if more people realized that they weren't more intelligent simply because they became an atheist, maybe it could knock them down a few pegs enough to have a rational discussion with someone instead of just like attacking the shit out of them and being like, "Oh, you're stupid. You believe in a fairy tale," and because that's gonna get you nowhere.
I agree.
I got a quick question to Albany. I've always been curious. Have you ever, in your past or anything, explored any New Age?
Yeah, I lived New Age for 8 years.
So, are you familiar with Aleister Crowley's segment that one must rid himself of I, me, and my in order to find complacency in oneself?
A little bit. I grew up a lot around Michael Rhodes. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No, but I'll definitely look that up.
I haven't heard of him myself. I'll look up the...
I really hated the New Age I grew up in personally. I actually think what I lived my teenage years was almost, if not more harmful than a lot of Christian dogma.
Albany, follow-up question to what you said. Do you think atheists can feed off and get new information off of religious people, not for the sake of, using it against another religious person argument, but just be open-minded to the possibility maybe that if we are wrong, maybe that if there is a creator God, which God is it? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, should atheists be open to the possibility that there might be an afterlife after we die?
No one should ever stop questioning. Ever. I am completely open to the possibility of there being one God, two gods, 100 gods, heaven, hell, some other random reincarnation afterlife. I think you've lost the game the moment you close yourself off to other possibilities.
I completely agree. That's exactly the stance I have as well. Carl Sagan famously once said in an interview with Charlie Rose back in 1996, the year before he died, that in life, doesn't matter if you're a believer or a non-believer, everyone's skeptical in some type of way and everyone's curious. That's just the natural human condition. And death is the greatest mystery. We live one life and we experience love, loss, and adventure and risk, but after we die, that's the greatest adventure because we don't know what happens. I mean, I think Carl Sagan got that perfectly right. Walter, what do you think? I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you think atheists should be open to the possibility that there might be something after death?
Well, I think that consciousness has always been a fascination of mine. So to put what else, I guess life and death is more of a construct. I'm more the thing that interests me is how I see, touch, and smell and see, and I can just remember you and everything like that. But it also frightens me as people with Alzheimer's, how they can feel and they can just see and feel their thoughts slipping away and change their personality. Consciousness, I think, is more or less the question that fascinates me. Do I believe that there's consciousness after this body ends? I hope so, and I want to believe that there is because there's just so much that I can learn and pass on. I mean, I like to believe in reincarnation. I love to believe all those other things like that. I've been told by people before, a little funny, this is kind of flirty, but like, oh, you were a fucking alchemist in a past life and you blew yourself up. Ah, ha, ha, that's funny. But, yeah, I mean, it's more along the lines of consciousness for me. It's like, it's not more of life and death. It's more like, where does that go and how does that expand or dissipate?
Walter, I'm actually quite intrigued by that.
I've seen studies. I've seen a couple studies. It's like they talk about, like, I know, bring up DMT and everything, like the chemical that you release in your brain once when you're born and once when you die. So I mean, I can't go off that unconsciousness, but then again, it's just, I don't know. I've learned so much in this existence, and I put too many things in effort in this existence, and I'm consciously aware of the things that I've done. So then consciousness is, I need to understand what that is. I need to understand what is that in the brain that causes this consciousness that I see and feel. You know, that's my take.
Actually very fascinating. Wow, very fascinating. Before we go, I'm not sure if you guys watched this earlier, but and I actually made a video. My response to Pope Francis's meeting with Congress. I actually got emotional towards the end, but what's your view on Pope Francis? I mean, do you think he is a good figure for the world or just the Catholic Church? Because I think, honestly, in my opinion, he is a great inspiration for anybody of a belief or no belief.
He is definitely better than a lot of the past popes, and sticking to a more positive note, he is helping the church become more progressive. And while the church has had minor changes, throughout, canon law and have changes throughout history, he's making a huge impact right now, especially when you see him pissing off conservatives, pissing off, Catholics by accepting certain parts of evolution and, stating that we don't know who goes to heaven or hell, which is very important when you look into the traditional faith. That atheists can go to heaven because in purgatory you can, if you were a good enough person, you can be saved and be washed clean in purgatory. And yes, you technically enter heaven as a Catholic, but I still don't agree with him, obviously, on a lot of things, but I think he's probably one of the better choices that they could have right now.
Oh, I completely agree. Walter, what's your take on Pope Francis?
I don't know enough about the man to give an opinion, to be honest with you. I haven't been following those stories or politics.
Just to let you know in advance, Walter, he is the most quotable pope of all time on social media. And also, it's the fact that he is not only more accepting of people, it's the fact that he's like telling, more specifically, like hardcore Tea Party GOP people and climate change deniers and so forth, that these are real issues we need to be talking about, and the man is just a wonderful human being. He like literally, I'm not even joking, the video is on my Facebook page if you guys want to see it. Literally, I got emotional towards the end of the video because the way he uses religion is not dogmatic at all. It's more like how religion should be used to inspire people to do better for the common good. Would you agree with that?
Well, it's still dogmatic. He still has, the certain rules that people should live by, and that is their own form of dogma. What I think I like best about him is that he has not stopped being humble once. He constantly will deny having these fancy dinners with presidents and bishops, and will go eat with the homeless and the hungry and be with them and people with lepers, and he never questions that, and I do admire that about him.
I love the guy. I really do. Walter, did I ask you what point you would give to atheists how to be more trustworthy and respectable people? Did I ask you that?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I can just answer that. I guess for people to find atheists more trustworthy, are you asking me, or for
how atheists can be more trustworthy and respectable? I'm sorry, phrased it wrong.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I think I did. I just said like something around the lines of being more self-aware. Oh. Just being more self-aware of yourself. Your actions and everything like that. It depends on the individual. If you're a fucking, an ugly fucking person, you're just gonna respond ugly no matter what fucking tie you wear over your fucking neck. It's just how you say it. You wake up in the morning and you're ready to grab a cup of coffee, and the first thing in your mind is to tell, hey, good morning to all the people that messaged me since last night, and I hope they slept well. And you just genuinely care about people who care about your existence, and it's just so on and so forth. It's just a warm fuse that just keeps going and relighting itself. But if you just wake up in the morning and you look out your window and you're like, fuck these people, everything is so miserable, and this and this, and my boyfriend that, or my girlfriend's this way, and you're answering text messages and all these toxic people, you're going to be a toxic person. So it's just, that's my take on that.
I agree. Now, we're about to close the show, but before we do that, I want to thank Albany and Walter for being a great panelist to this show. I enjoyed your guys' points of views, and I hope whoever was watching this or whoever is going to watch it later enjoys this and gets different perspectives from 3 different atheists. Also, this is my point I would give to our side of the argument. Look, it doesn't matter if a person's a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim. It doesn't matter if they're a Hindu or a Buddhist. It doesn't matter what religion they belong to. It doesn't matter what sect of religion they practice. The thing is, though, in America, I've seen to notice for the past 14 years, and this is my fight. This is my fight, my personal fight. I fight for all Americans who are discriminated against, either based on their skin color, religion, or etc. And I've seen to notice within the past 14 years, growing up, that
We keep losing you, James.
We do. His words were so powerful, it shook the foundation of this broadcast. James.
I hope he's sitting there like yelling at his computer.
Unfortunately, we are not seeing any of his motion whatsoever, so it was just like, ah.
But there he goes.
Let me finish. That's just, to my side of the argument, generalizing all American Muslims saying they support ISIS, the Taliban, and Al-Qaeda is a generalization, and that is a bigoted generalization. If you don't believe me, look on YouTube later. The House I Live in, 1945, Frank Sinatra, full short. Because that explains how, you know what, doesn't matter what religion you are, we're all Americans, we should all defend each other. I'm Michael DePrima, and like I said, I want to thank again Walter and Albany for joining me on the panel. I hope you enjoyed this program, and I hope you learned a little perspective, if you're an atheist, how to be, you know, a little more trustworthy or more respectable, and I hope you learned from the 3 videos that you were shown of how atheists are disrespected and so forth, and how atheists are disrespectful sometimes, and how we can improve our side so people don't have this bad view of atheism. See you guys.